Hello, so this is the first of what will potentially be a series of Commander duels. So to start things off, we have Matthew playing Stonebrow Krosan Hero and Peter playing Brion Stoutarm. So these are two fairly aggressive decks, both pretty quick, and I guess I'd give Stonebrow the edge for having a lot of ramp, but Brion is definitely the more controlling deck here. It's got the white removal spells and some control aspects like that. So, Stonebrow goes first, drops a fetch and grabs a Stomping Grounds, and passes the turn. Peter drops the Mistral Plains, passes turn. And the first spell comes from Matthew, dropping a Grim Monolith. So there's the ramp we were talking about, although that's not a green-specific ramp spell, so yeah, I know there's the same card in Brion's deck, and in fact, I think this is what's coming down right now. Monoliths for everyone on turn 2. So that's a pretty good start for both players. I guess neither player is going to have mana troubles. Turn 3 play from Matthew is a Weatherseed Totem, so lots of ramp going on the green side of the table. We'll see if Brion Stoutarm can keep up. There's Return to Dust. Yeah, pretty timely spell, I guess, because that just kills Stonebrow's ramp there. So that advantage is gone now. Notice that Peter missed his turn 3 land drop. So we've gone from both players having pretty fast mana starts to you'll see that Stonebrow missed his turn 4 land drop, and now we're both passing turns here. So much for that fast start. But there's a top deck Coalition Relic for Matthew to get back in the mana game. And Peter top decks the Enlightened Tutor, which will help him with some mana issues as well. And he's going to get Soul Ring, obviously. If you're wondering what those strings are around the board, that's supposed to be outside of the field of view. Those weren't showing on my camera's viewfinder. We were using that just to help us know where we could place cards and still be within the camera's point of view. But obviously we misjudged that, because you can see them right there. So, 6 mana available to Matthew on, I guess this is turn 5. Sarkhan Vol. One of the underplayed planeswalkers in this format, I guess. Mostly because he's multicolor and he's in a somewhat difficult color combination. But when he's good, he's really good. Especially in aggressive deck, because that haste ability is just really important. So he's already up to 5 loyalty here. Peter's still stuck on 2 lands, but at least he's got the Soul Ring and Grim Monolith still. And Sunforger, the best reason to play white-red. That card is just insane. I'll tell you right now, it's going to be really good in this game. And in comes the General. And with Sarkhan, he's going to have haste, and he's swinging for 7. So, Sarkhan makes it pretty convenient, I guess, because it's only 3 swings for Stonebrow to be lethal. And he's a general who can easily go in for all 21 points of general damage himself, just because he swings for 6. He's so easy to pump with, like, Savage Beating or something. However, Archon of Justice is a very good card for white, for just this kind of thing, holding off a really dangerous threat. However, that Sarkhan Vol is now up to 6 loyalty, which is the required cost for his ultimate ability to put 5 dragons into play. However, I think I'm an idiot here, and I choose not to do that. Don't ask why. I guess I forgot about the Archon of Justice and the Sunforger being able to attack for 8 damage. I thought it would be more fun to see here. I'm about to cast In the Web of War. I really wanted to make the dragons +2/+0 in haste, so I thought I could just wait for a turn. Completely forgot that he can just one-shot Sarkhan. Oh well. Anyways, In the Web of War is a really good card for this deck particularly, because haste is so important for aggressive decks, and the extra power boost can be really dangerous. So that Archon is keeping my general at bay, but he's going to have to tap it to deal with Sarkhan this turn, so I will be able to swing in next turn. Oh, I didn't get to make my dragons. notice that Peter has left open red-white, which will let him activate the Sunforge's ability. And that card is just so good. He has access to any sort of removal and all kinds of crap in his deck, just as long as he has red-white open with Sunforger. So, despite the fact he's stuck on 3 lands, he's actually in pretty good shape with that Sunforger and a creature to wield it. And he's going to use that right now. Could get Condemn, could get Path to Exile, but he's going to go for Oblation. Red-White has a lot of tech effects, but it's got Chaos Warp, Oblation, Condemn, and then you've got a Sunforger to fetch all 3 of those. So, yeah, that's pretty fair, right? There's a Treetop Village just played by Matthew there, so that's a land that could turn into a Trampler. Explosive Vegetation is going to give Stonebrow some more mana there, and still going to have to play around that Archon of Justice and Sunforger, 2 really frustrating cards there. And he's going to swing in with the Archon, leaving himself open, but he's always got the red-white open for Sunforger, so he can fetch Path to Exile for any threat that Matthew plays here. Yeah, that looks like kind of a bad play there. I guess Matthew is too happy to have top-decked the General again after the Oblation and drop it down. Really? You should have done this first. That's Chaos Warp for Sunforger, because that card really needs to be gone. Should have kept the Stonebrow back so that he wouldn't be able to use Sunforger in response to deal with Stonebrow again. And yeah, that's 2 Chaos Warps on the stack, which is, with these 2 decks, that's pretty exciting because, you know, Brion Stoutarm has both Eldrazi, he's got Iona, he's got all kinds of crazy stuff that he could flip. And of course, Stonebrow has all kinds of massive green creatures, so this should be fun. What are we going to flip over here? Oh, that sucks. 2 lands. Okay, well. So Sunforger is gone, so that's, the huge advantage that Peter had is no longer there, but he's still got that chump blocking Archon of Justice, which is kind of annoying. However, he's going to swing in, going to keep pressuring. He's always got his General Brion Stoutarm if he gets too low on life. He's really good for sacrificing that Archon and gaining him some life. Good for stall. He's going to play 2 Dwarves this turn, Dwarven Blast Miner, Dwarven Miner. Stonebrow's been racking up the lands here with Explosive Edge and couple other cards, but he's only got a couple non-basics there, it seems. That one's an Ancient Tomb, so that's a pretty good one. Down comes Vorinclex. He's hasty because of In the Web of War. And yeah, Vorinclex is going to be pretty good this game. And Greater Good, one of the nastiest enchantments you can have in a green deck. So it looks like the advantage has swung to Matthew. Despite the Archon, those 2 dwarves really aren't going to do anything, especially with Vorinclex out to double all of the mana produced by my lands. And now Peter has to worry about Vorinclex keeping those lands tapped. However, that's pretty much the perfect counter to that ability there, because Sword of Feast and Famine will untap his lands. So that's one way to deal with that. He's still in a lot of trouble though, because that's a lot of power on the board, and a lot of mana. So, card discarded, untap those lands. And Peter's going to use one of those dwarves to get rid of Ancient Tomb there. Although really Matthew has all the mana in the world at this point, so the Ancient Tomb isn't that big of a deal. So with double mana, he's going to be able to drop a couple of creatures. There's Rapacious one. He's a good one for Stonebrow, just because you can always use those dorks to sacrifice for more creatures. And Thunderblust. Probably the best creature you can have with Greater Good, because that's a lot of cards. Unfortunately, I don't think Matthew knows how to do math, because I think if he swings in with that Treetop Village there, then that's lethal. Also, I probably should have sacrificed that Thunder Blast to Greater Good first, so that it could have Trample, because that Dwarven Blast Miner there was a potential chump blocker. Anyway, Peter is down to 1. So he's pretty much screwed. He needs a Wrath, and then even then he's got to deal with that Treetop Village there. So, Sword of Feast and Famine will at least give him access to his mana. And there's the Wrath. Austere Command, naming big creatures and enchantments. So that's actually going to wipe Matthew's board. And it's going to keep the Sword of Feast and Famine and those dwarves on the table. So that's pretty good board position for Peter. Even with the Treetop Village threat here, he's potentially going to do okay. But Matthew, of course, gets to dig like 30 cards into his deck in response thanks to Greater Good. So Peter's still pretty much screwed. There goes Vorinclex, so that's another 7 cards. And Matthew has found the price of progress, which is going to easily finish off Peter. So that's game 1 in the books. Okay, so game 2, Peter's going to be going first this time. So, first game is pretty exciting. You got to see Sunforger and In the Web of War both do pretty nasty things for their decks. Vorinclex obviously was a big help too. Doubling the mana really pushed that deck to limits. So Matthew gets the first turn Sensei's Divining Top, which is always a really good first turn. Peter gets Lightning Greaves. Once again, he's probably playing the more control-ish deck in this matchup, but it's still a very aggressive deck, so something like Lightning Greaves does very well in his build. Hall of the Bandit Lord comes down for Matthew, which is almost as good as Lightning Greaves. It's a land that's going to give your creatures haste. It's absolutely fantastic for any aggressive deck in this format. Matthew gets to spin the top. I have to say, Sensei's Divining Top is the most annoying card to have to make a video with, because I have to edit out all the time it takes me to flip through those 3 cards, which is a pain in the ass. Peter drops his own Hall of the Bandit Lord there, and the Legend Rule kicks in. I don't think Peter realized that when he played it, but what else was he going to do with it in his hand? And there's the Soul Ring. So now Peter has the mana advantage, especially after strip mining Matthew's Hall of the Bandit Lord. And then the General Brion Stoutarm comes out, hasted up. So that's a pretty good start. He has an 8 damage life swing every time he attacks, thanks to the lifelink. Ancient Tomb there is going to help Matthew catch up, but still doesn't have a play. Brion swings again. Beast Within for the Lightning Greaves, because cannot kill Brion if he has Shroud. So Peter gets a 3/3 here. Beast Within is a pretty fantastic card. I made a video on my Stonebrow deck a while ago. This is before they printed 2 Vindicates for red-green. I remember back then I was talking about how weak the removal is for this color combination. But since then they've gotten Beast Within and Chaos Warp, which are both fantastic cards. So this color combination is no longer removal light. It's got those 2 cards, plus stuff like Aftershock, which is pretty close to Vindicate. And of course stuff like Acidic Slime. So there we go. That's Peter showing just how good he is at this game. He Chaos Warps into the Iona, and that comes into play naming green. Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have been much worse than that. I guess he has Kozilek and Ulamog in there as well, but come on, Iona. There's not a whole lot Matthew can do. He's on a 2-turn clock here, and he needs to come up with an answer in his red colors, and his Chaos Warp is already gone, so there's not a whole lot he can do. He can use the top and try to find his Aftershock, I guess. That's in the Web of War. That's not going to mean a whole lot to Peter at this point. And there's the Orm's Thunder at end of turn just to be safe. All Peter needs to do is just defend these two creatures here, because they're going to go all the way easily. And last chance for Matthew. Gonna have to find Aftershock or... Well, that's pretty much it. I think that's the only red answer he's got. Duplicant, probably. Usually have Duplicant in every deck, so that's always an answer to Iona. Doesn't seem to have anything, though, so... This is probably game. Yep, that's it. So, on to game 3. So in game 3, Matthew will be playing first. This matchup usually comes down to who has the best ramp, because they both got a lot of mana rocks, but green usually has the edge. Once again, the first turn, Sensei's Divining Top. And the first turn, I think that's a Mistfell Plains. And those fetch lands, of course, are always great with top. City of Brass for Peter there. There's nothing wrong with playing City of Brass in a 2-color deck. You've usually got a ton of 2-color lands at your disposal, but if you have a lifelinking general, why not play City of Brass? It's not going to hurt. Matthew pops a Misty Rainforest and Verdant Catacombs, grabs a Forest and Stomping Grounds. And there's a Weatherseed Totem. Usually I won't play any mana rock that only has a net gain of 1 mana, so I really hate the Signets, I'm afraid. I only play those in budget decks. But if I want to play a mana rock, it's got to tap for at least 2, because then I get more value out of it. Weatherseed Totem there, however, is an exception because it turns into a trampling creature, and this is, of course, a trampling themed deck. So there's Acidic Slime from Matthew. That's going to deal with that Coalition Relic, which is a very good mana rock, especially good in a 2 or 3 color deck, of course. And there comes Sunhome from Peter, probably the most dangerous aggressive land in the format, maybe behind Hall of the Bandit Lord, but Sunhome is another really good reason to play red-white. And Brion Stoutarm comes down, so he's threatening 16-point life swings there with the double striking general. Looks like Matthew tops on his upkeep and drops a Mosswort Bridge. I love Mosswort Bridge. That thing needs to see more play. It's just so easy to activate that thing. And the Acidic Slime is going to hopefully hold off whatever the hell that guy's name is, Brion Stoutarm. And yep, Peter passes turn. Matthew's tapping out here for something big. Kodama of the North Tree. Just another fatty trampler creature with Shroud, so it's going to get around that removal. And Yosei the Morningstar from Peter. God, that thing's annoying. So like I said earlier, Brion is the slightly more controlling deck in that it's not just big dumb fatties like Stonebrow. It's got a lot of ways to keep your opponent at bay. So stuff like Yosei is one example of how it's kind of a control deck. Out comes Stonebrow for Matthew, and you'll notice he's now up to 10 power for the Mosswort Bridge, if that ends up mattering. Kodama comes in and gets the chump block from Yosei, which means he's gonna get all of his stuff tapped down. You'll notice the top gets tapped down, which means if Peter wanted to, he could actually destroy that thing with an Orm's Thunder. Get rid of it for good. Man, Yosei's annoying because I have to skip my next untap step as well. In comes Brion Stoutarm. Peter decides not to use the Sunhome to give it double strike, so he's got something else to use his mana on. That's bad news. Karmic Guy brings back Yosei, so he's actually getting pretty close to a potential lock there, because sort of Light and Shadow would complete the Yosei lock. It's definitely not a deck built around Yosei, but it can pull off a combo lock if need be. So this game is definitely looking to be in Peter's favor at this point. However, he still has to play a little conservatively because Matthew does have a lot of power on the board. And with stuff like Savage Beating and Insurrection, it's not hard for him to just win a game on the spot. So Yosei and Karmic Guide are going to stay back. You'll notice Peter actually paid the Echo to keep Karmic Guide in play. Matthew drops the Harmonize, a nice card draw in green. Passes turn. Doesn't want to get stuck behind that Yosei again, so I'm going to wait till we can deal with it before swinging into it. Peter's going to force the issue though and start flying in for some damage. Again, chooses not to double strike, so he's got something else up his sleeve. That is a Vicious Shadows, which is a very vicious card. You notice Matthew just harmonized there, so I think he's got a pretty close to a full grip there. And then Brion's Stoutarm throws Yosei. Matthew's going to get a stuff tap down. He's going to respond by using that Mosswar Bridge and bring in a Rampaging Balos. And then sack the fetch land to make a Dork. However, with a Yosei trigger on the stack and a Vicious Shadows in play, doesn't look like Matthew's going to be able to win this, but we'll see. So he also topped there in response. The Yosei trigger is finally just resolving. Peter passes the turn. That's a lot of power on the board for Matthew. If he wasn't getting screwed over by that dragon, he would definitely be able to do some serious damage. It's a Shink of the Blood-Soaked Keep over there. And yeah, with a Sunhome in play and Vicious Shadows, that's going to be lethal, with Matthew losing all those untapped steps. So yeah, Peter did not need the fatter creatures to win this. He just needed the more controlling elements. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Please leave some comments. Let me know if you want to see any more of these.